Good morning. So I've done a couple of videos in the past talking about what you could use the M1 processor for software development, what kinds of software development you can use the M1 for in the past. And I decided I want to do a video to talk a little bit about what you can't use it for. So one of the things that's been interesting about watching what Apple's done with the M1 is it's based off of a different processor technology. The previous Macs were x86 or Intel-based processors. And the thing that was wonderful about that is when Apple first went over to Intel-based processors, I guess about 15 years ago, it opened up a world for developers because previously to that, they'd been on the PowerPC, which is also a RISC-based architecture. And there was all this software from the PC world that we had not really been able to run unless we ran it under some type of emulation. So, for instance, like if you want to run Microsoft SQL Server or Visual Studio or Windows for that matter, now you're able to do that. But a lot's changed in the last 15 years. A lot of the tools that software engineers use now, a lot of that's kind of moved more into the open source realm. And a lot of this different software that we use has been ported and runs on multiple different operating systems, including not just Mac OS, but also Linux. So the thing that was one of the things that's kind of been good over the last couple of years. That being said, one of the things that software engineers try to do is when they're developing, they try to target the environment that they're going to be going to. So, for instance, one of the reasons why Docker has become so popular is because typically when you deploy a lot of server-based software out to the cloud or to a rack location, a lot of times we're doing that on Linux-based servers. And most of those servers, even though the Windows-based servers, are all running on Intel-based hardware. Now, there's some exceptions to that. One of the things that Amazon's done recently is they've added a new set of processors that you can use that are part of its Graviton EC2 experience. And so if you're planning on, I'd say if you're planning on developing and deploying to ARM-based processors, the M1 Mac is probably a really good solution. But if you're still planning targeting x86-based processors, it'd probably be a good idea to continue to use Intel-based machines. So there's some very specific examples of where you want to do this. If you're writing essentially code that compiles down to an executable that runs on a specific type of processor, that's an obvious example of where you want to make sure that you're targeting the same type of hardware. But a lot of the modern languages and environments, systems that software engineers use now, either run in some type of intermediate code or run interpreted. So, for instance, if you're running Python as an example, that runs on whatever processor that you're running. You just have to have the Python runtime installed and running on the server. But if you're using something like Go or Rust or C++, languages like that, which are statically typed and compiled down into an executable, those typically are targeted for a specific processor. So I would say if you're still if you're doing a lot of cloud-based work where you're deploying to x86-based servers and you're using development languages like Golang or Rust for that matter, I would say continue using the processor that you're planning on deploying to. But other than that, for instance, if you're doing a lot of Node.js development, that will run on whatever processor you're deployed to. So I think one of the things that's kind of interesting is to see the direction that the rest of the industry will go, because usually Apple kind of precedes what the rest of the industry will do. And so, for instance, they were the first computer manufacturer to remove the floppy disk and add USB. And eventually, all of the PC manufacturers started doing that as well. It'll be interesting to see how soon like companies like Dell, HP, companies that make servers and server hardware, how long before they start transitioning to ARM-based processors. So I'm looking forward to see what the future holds. But in the meantime, I would say if you're like me and you are targeting a specific type of processor architect technology, you probably want to stick with whatever processor you're targeting. Otherwise, it doesn't really matter. That's it. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you don't like it, you can give me a thumbs down, and subscribe to the channel, and we'll do more videos like this. Thanks.